What is up, everybody? It is Drew, Traveler of the Burning Abyss here. I'm doing my intro differently today. I wanted to try this out, so this is just a little test run. Let me know what you think in the comments down below if you like me doing intros like this, where you could actually see me and see me talk. But I went to a case tournament yesterday at my locals, and it was 40 players. There were 6 rounds of Swiss that was then turned into a top 8 cut, which was single elimination. So I brought Swordsoul, and I ended up going 4-1-1 in Swiss, which got me 4th place after Swiss. And then I won in top 8, and then I ended up splitting with everybody else in top 4. So everybody just split the prizing. So everyone in top 4 walked away with a little more than 2.5 boxes apiece. We all got 63 packs. So that's 2 boxes and 15 extra packs. So a little more than 2.5 boxes, which is really cool. I had a blast playing the deck. I think that Swordsoul is within the top 5 decks of the format for sure. After seeing how it performed yesterday, I was extremely impressed. The fact that you can play so many different non-engine cards in there that make the deck work extremely well, to me, makes it worth playing, or at least trying. The other big thing about the deck is that it's not that expensive compared to other meta decks. So if you're looking for something that's more affordable, Swordsoul is probably the way to go, and it's a solid choice going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and cut over now to my mat so you all can see what my list looked like, and I will go more in depth than the profile that I posted literally like 3 days ago. I posted a profile 3 days ago. I bring it to a tournament that was a good sized tournament, and I end up doing extremely well. I mean, 40 people at a locals for a case tournament is a lot of people. Let's be realistic. There are a lot of locals who don't even get like 20 people for stuff like that. So 40 is really, really good. So let's go ahead and take a look at my Swordsoul profile from yesterday. Alright, so before I go through the entire list, let's talk matchups. That way everybody knows that I played against. If you don't want to listen to this part, I will have the matchups down in the video description. So if you want to skip forwards, like probably 30 seconds to a minute, then go for it if you want to just peek down in the description. But essentially, round 1, what happened is I played against Mathmech, and I 2-0'd Mathmech. Round 2, I played against the mirror match, and I ended up losing in game 3. Round 3, I played against another mirror match, which I beat in game 3. So at that point, I was 2-1. Round 4, I played against another Mathmech. So at this point, I've played 2 Mathmech and 2 Swordsoul, and I ended up beating the Mathmech in game 3. So at that point, I was 3-1. Round 5, I played against Branded Despia with the Bestial engine in there, and we ended up drawing. So I was 3-1-1, and then last round I played against another Branded Bestial with the Despia engine, and I ended up beating that in game 3, which helped me end 4-1-1. And then my top 8 match was against the same Branded Bestial player that I played against in round 5, who I had a draw with, and I ended up beating him in game 3. So it was a very, very solid event overall. I was actually more confident in this deck than I thought I was. After making a lot of the plays, I realized that this deck is probably one of the most solid entry points for anyone trying to play the game competitively right now. So if you're in that kind of point where you're like, do I want to really start playing more competitively, this is probably where you should start. But let's go ahead and jump on in to the main deck. So as I said, I made it to top 4, and then everybody ended up splitting prizing, which was pretty cool. So I'm going to show you what I played and how I played it. So we'll start off with the Sword-Souls. I played 3 Moyi. I'll actually center this. I played 3 Moyi, and I think that 3 Moyi is exceptionally it's just an amazing card. Like I love this card so much, and the amount of times that I normal summon this and use the effect and my opponent tried to negate it and I just dragon circled it was crazy. This card put in so much work, baited out hand traps and stuff like that. And I mean, most of the time people didn't even try and negate it, so I just got a free synchro on board and a guaranteed draw, which was fantastic. So 3 Moe is obviously a necessity. You have to play 3 of it. I played 3 copies of Long Yuan. I think that 3 copies of this, also correct, you have to play 3 copies. The card put in a lot of work making, you know, Barons and Sinisters and all that other stuff. It's just a really good card. I don't have much else to say. This card's really good. And we played 2 copies of Taya. This was like decent at the minimum. There was definitely some points where it was like, all right, like I can put in a little bit of work here, and it's just because I had Taya for follow-up. So yeah, I can't hate on this card. I see some people play 1. I strongly disagree with playing 1 because the deck plays Desires, so like you don't want to banish your 1 copy of Taya, so that's why I played 2 in case I banished 1. I think this card is very important for your follow-up, like really important. And there are sometimes where you're opening combo, this card is integral to your opening combo. So yeah, keep that in mind. I'll probably end up doing like combo video stuff, hopefully within the next like week or 2. I'll probably need some time to actually do it, but yeah, that's what I have going on right now. Then the last card that I played here, I actually played the new Abyss Dragon Swordsoul, and honestly, I really, really like this card. This card was an amazing beat stick at the minimum. And like the fact that you can just drop this card out and swing for extra damage is crazy, or put up a body that your opponent can't beat over. Like that's actually insane. So the fact that you can do that is nuts. And I think it's definitely worth noting that this card can steal some games more often than you think. I think the fact that it's, you know, 3,000, 2,900 is crazy stats. The only thing that's kind of unfortunate is that it's a level 8, but it could be worse. Like, it really could be worse. So, yeah, it came up a decent amount, but I did also side it out in certain games too. Then I also played 3 Incredible Ecclesia. This card is crazy. I think everybody knows this card is crazy. If I was going first, I usually sided one of it out because I figure it's a little better going second than it is going first. And I never really had trouble other than 1 game with drawing my engine cards. So yeah, 3 of this was fine, and then siding 1 out in like your games 2 and 3 was also fine. Definitely something to keep in mind. But yeah, the fact that this is a quick effect and you can just tribute it is also very, very strong. And if you're going second, it is a free special summon. So yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't play Incredible Ecclesia at 3. Then for the 10E cards, I played 3 Ashina. This is probably the most important of all the 10E cards. It just says it's a free body and another free body. So yeah, I think that's really all the explanation you need. This card was really, really good. Came up a bunch. So honestly, I didn't get Bestialed as much as I thought I would. I got hit with Bestials in like maybe 2 games, which is really not that bad. And I typically sided out most, if not all, of the 10E engine when I knew the Bestial stuff was happening. So yeah, I think that it's still really good though, because it does help you a lot. Then I played 2 Vishuda because it says bounce cards, and bouncing cards is very important in this deck. You make very fair trades with this deck, and I think that's very important to note, is that the amount of trades that you make typically results in a board state that is more than fair. Your opponent could have something to break it, but if you play it properly, they won't have anything to break it. This deck essentially puts, you know, the simplified game states on the map. So yeah, 2 Vishuda is really good. 2 Adhara, I think that 2 of this is great. So I think in my other profile that I did the other day, I feel like I was doing 3 Ashina, 3 Vishuda, 3 Adhara. I could be wrong. I don't remember. Honestly, it was 3 days ago. And after playing 7 rounds of Yu-Gi-Oh! Yesterday, my brain is not currently functioning. But yeah, I think that the 10E ratio that I'm doing now is perfect. The Adhara is really good at adding stuff back, which is fantastic. I added back Long Yuans, I added back Moes, I added back Tayas, like all that kind of stuff. So I think this card is fantastic. So, and like the fact that it's a level 1 tuner also helps in some scenarios. And then the last 10E, I did play the 1 Shithana. Didn't come up. Neither, like, if I had played Mapura, it wouldn't have come up either, so it didn't really make a difference either way. The only thing this came up for was being a target off of Dragon Circle, which I think is important, because if you open up Dragon Circle Moe and you do Moe effect and they try and imperm it, you just tribute the Moe and you search for this because you still get the token, and then you can special this and then you have a level 8 synchro. So that was why I played it. I think you need a level 4, but what level 4 you play is completely up to you. I do think that Shathana is probably the best level 4 to go with, though. Moving on to the hand traps. We have 3 copies of Ash Blossom. This is generic. I don't think this needs much of an explanation. It came in clutch against some of the Branded Despia decks for sure. Everything else, it wasn't really that crazy against. I didn't draw the card that much, so I guess that's worth noting. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. The card did what it did when I needed it, and other than that, it was a very mid-range card. But yeah, it's still Ash. You kind of have to play it because it's really good against a lot of stuff. 3 copies of Nibiru. Let's be realistic, this card is the nuts. I would definitely keep this in the main deck going forward. I think that almost every single game that I played, Nibiru would be relevant at one point or another, so I don't see why you wouldn't play 3 of this. It's a fantastic card. One of my Swordsoul opponents, my round 3, so the Swordsoul opponent that I beat, he was main decking Nibirus and crossout designators. That way, if somebody Nibiru'd him, he could just, you know, use crossout designator, which going forward, I might try that. But the problem is trying to actually find space, because right now I'm at 40 cards and I don't want to go over 40 because 40 is ideal. But yeah, Nib is definitely a necessity. Like, you should be main decking that card. And 3 copies of Imperm for the last hand trap. I think that Imperm is also fantastic because it makes it so your opponent isn't going to be able to hit you with something like Triple Tactics Talent or Triple Tactics Thrust if it's the only hand trap that you activate for the turn, because it's not a monster effect. So your opponent can't do much of anything. So yeah, Imperm was great. This card came up a lot. I hit so many different cards. It's not like just one card. I hit a lot of things with this. So you should definitely be playing Imperms. Don't play Veilers. Play Imperms. Trust me, just suck it up and spend like $30 or $25 for a playset, whatever a playset is now. It's definitely something you should do. Then the spell cards, 3 copies of Emergence and 3 copies of Dragon Circle. So this was kind of the last minute thing that I did, is that before I was playing 2 Dragon Circle and I was playing Call by the Grave, I decided that the hand traps that would be hitting me that I'm really concerned about are only really Nibiru. So I didn't think Call by the Grave was that useful. I ended up cutting Call by the Grave and playing the 3rd Dragon Circle, which was actually, in my opinion, the complete and total correct call. I think that it was probably one of the best decisions in deck building that I made. There was not a single point yesterday where Called by would have been amazing. So I think that Circle was great. If I didn't feel that like I needed the card as much, I would cut 1 and put it in my side deck and put something else in, depending on the matchup. Side decking was obviously, it wasn't confusing, but it was like, all right, what do I need going first or second, and what don't I need going first or second? So yeah, this card is really good. The Emergence, I feel like the Emergence doesn't need much of an explanation. I think that this is probably about as simple and straightforward as it gets. So yeah, like it's a rota for the deck. Then the other spell cards, I played 2 copies of Desires and 2 copies of Talent. I think that this was also pretty darn good. I resolved Desires a decent amount against the Mathmech player, the second Mathmech matchup that I had. I ended up getting ashed both times that I tried to use Desires, but it didn't really make that much of a difference. I still had full combo. I was just trying to draw more cards, and obviously I couldn't do that, but that's all right. And then the Talent did come up a decent amount. It didn't underperform, but it didn't overperform. It was probably one of the most like fair cards in my deck. Like, I didn't draw it more than I wanted to, and I didn't draw it less than I wanted to. And when I did use it, it helped out a decent amount, but it wasn't like the card that won me a game. So yeah, this card's still really, really cracked though. Like, you should be playing it. And then lastly, the one trap. We played the one blackout. I feel like this doesn't need an explanation. I never summoned a token off of it though. That never came up. Just the pop 2 came up. You'll see my side deck in a little bit, but I'm just going to give away one of the cards in there now. I was side decking anti-spell. I would anti-spell them, and I'd have this set, and then they'd set spell cards, and then I'd black out, and I'd get rid of 2 of the spell cards, and they didn't like that. But yeah, that's the main deck. Let's go ahead and take a look at the extra. All right, so extra deck. The extra deck is only a little bit different from the profile that I posted a few days ago, so I'm not gonna like go over the top in depth, but I'll do a little bit. So I played 2 copies of Chi-Jiao. Gotta play 2 Chi-Jiao. It's very important. The second one does come up very, very frequently, and I felt like I always needed the second one. So I'm glad that I kept this at 2, and I mean, 3 is not necessary, but the fact that it searches and the fact that it's also a negation is crazy. This card is a lot better than most people think. It just sucks if it gets like hit with Book of Eclipse, because it's got like 1,000 defense, so they're gonna beat over it with pretty much anything. But yeah, still a really good card. Then for the big boys, we played the Sinister and the Supreme. I summoned Sinister a good amount for most of the tournament, actually. I summoned it a lot of turn 1s. It put in a lot of work. I did burn for game at one point with it, so that was actually very important. The Supreme did not really come up. If anything, I summoned this card once, and that's it. Like, I know that's crazy, but I honestly think I only dropped this card on the board once, which is just insane. I didn't ever really feel like I needed to play it. So yeah, it's still a good card. Like, you still need to play this, but it just wasn't major in my matchups yesterday. Then 2 copies of Baxia, because this card says it does everything that we want it to do for our deck. It cracks our opponent's board, and it brings back good cards from our graveyard. So yeah, like, playing 2 of this is fantastic. Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't. And then the last level 8 that I played was 1 Draco Berserker. This card came up probably, I'm gonna say, like 4 times yesterday, which is probably less than it should be. But I mean, realistically, people see how you're progressing with your board state, and a lot of people are just likely to scoop because they don't see a line for themselves. And if you've basically dwindled all of their resources, they really don't have a line. So yeah, I think Draco Berserker was good when I dropped it, but it wasn't like the best card. But it was there when I needed it. Then for the level 10s, of course, the Baron. This doesn't need much explanation. This is basically a negation and a pop and a special summon. I never used the special summon effect, but the negate and the pop were used fairly frequently, and it really did put in a whole lot of work. So yeah, the Baron is a necessity. You need it for the deck. If you're a budget player, it's getting a reprint in March, I think, so that's kind of cool. But I think prices are already down on these, so be aware of that if you want to pick it up a little bit cheaper, and you know, not as cheap as a reprint, but if you want to pick it up cheaper than it's been, now would probably be the time to do so. And then the other level 10 that I tried out was the Ice Jade Gamir Adrian. So I did not summon this card once. Did not come up at all. Does not mean that it's not good. I think this card is fantastic. I think its best matchup to be played against is Kashtira, because you could chain it to their field spell, and then you banish their field spell, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the card is there for like certain reasons, but I didn't ever sit there and be like, oh yeah, like this is the best card in the entire extra deck or anything. Like, I literally didn't summon it all. There were times where I thought about summoning it, but it never happened. So and because all of your tokens are water tuners, it's very easy to make this. But yeah, even though it's easy to make, I never ended up playing it. And then the last 2 synchros that I played were the Yazi and the Chao Fang. This was like decent. I summoned Yazi probably once, I think, and I summoned Chao Fang like twice. Yeah, when I dropped the Yazi, my opponent just kind of scooped because he knew that I was going to be able to combo off. And the Chow Fang, I mean, it's good to try and bait out Nib if you try and go into a Chow Fang line, and then if you have follow-up. Basically, if you open up Ashina and either Vishuddha or Adhara, you can do your combo for a copy of Chow Fang, and then if you have Engine on top of it, you haven't normal summoned yet. So yeah, that's pretty sweet. But yeah, these didn't come up excessively, but when they did come up, it was good. Like, it was good. Then for the links, I played 3 Monk and 1 Shaman. I think this is probably correct for the most part. 3 Monk did not come up as much as I thought it would. I think it came up once or twice, but I still think that 3 is probably right because I don't feel like playing the other one, the Link 3. I can never remember the name of it. The one that pops cards. The name of the card is slipping my mind, so I apologize. But it's the Link 3 that pops cards, not the non-effect one. But yeah, that one I could see a reason for playing, but I think that this worked out fine. The Shaman effect to pop cards came up like once or twice. So that's kind of important to note, but outside of that, it was a very standard lineup. I didn't think that it needed changing, and I didn't think that it was bad. It definitely performed the way I wanted it to. But that is the extra deck. Let's take a look at the side deck to see what our game 2 and 3 basically entailed. All right, so for games 2 and 3, I feel that I was performing stronger than game 1 every single round. I've told a lot of people over the course of time that the only thing that game 1 is useful for is gaining information and knowledge. Outside of that, it's the least important game in the entire match, because game 2 and game 3 are when you really get to see how things are going to work out. For me, that's a very, very important thing to note. Everyone goes, oh, well, game 1's important because what if you lose it? It doesn't matter, because all you have to do is win games 2 and 3. And if you side properly, you will probably win games 2 and 3. So for me, I never, ever see a reason personally to worry about game 1. I always think more about game 2 and game 3, which is why my side decks have such a large focus around the meta. So starting off, we played 3 Book of Eclipse. This didn't get ashed once, so that's kind of awesome. I think that people realize that there's other stuff that my deck can do that's, you know, probably worth ashing, and they tried to hit that stuff instead. I had someone ash my Desires, and then I just eclipsed their board, and yeah, that was really, really good. Then for like some board breaker stuff, I mean, Eclipse is a board breaker, but some real board breakers, we have 3 Lightning Storm and 3 Evenly. So the Lightning Storm won me my top 8 match for sure. So my top 8 match, I actually did not draw well. I opened up Lightning Storm. I'm gonna have to think here for a second, so I apologize. I opened up Lightning Storm, Dimensional Barrier, Imperm, Moyi, and another card that was not important at all. I don't remember what card it was. It literally was a card that did nothing for the hand. But I opened those 4 and another card that did nothing. Basically, I couldn't get to my engine, but I set Imperm and Dimensional Barrier and passed. And he was on Branded Despia. He tried to do his Branded Fusion. I flipped Dimensional Barrier and he passed. And then I drew Swordsoul Emergence, which just opened my entire engine. And I had the 1 back row. He had 3 back row set, so I just Lightning Stormed his back row. And then I just comboed off from there. He had no cards in hand. He had no board established. And I beat over his board and just ended up taking the game. So, yeah, that was very important. The Evenly came up like twice, I think. It didn't come up as much as I thought it would. Still a really good card. Should probably keep playing it for sure. Yeah, that's really it for the board breakers. Then for the going first cards, I've already spoiled what both of these are throughout the video. 3 Dimensional Barrier and 1 Anti-Spell. This was fantastic. I literally have no words as to how amazing this was. Like I literally struggle to describe the number of games that I made people angry just by flipping either one of these cards. No one was happy about it. I thought it was hilarious. I got a good laugh out of it at the end of the day. It was just that other people were like, oh man, like I can't play, you have anti-spell up. I'm like, yeah, I know, that's kind of the point. Every single game 2 against Branded Despia, I was able to drop this card. I actually lost every single game 1 to Branded Despia, but then always won game 2, and the times that there was a game 3, well, obviously, by that I mean the one match that was a draw, obviously we didn't go to a game 3, but I still won the game 2. But every single game 2 and game 3 I won against Branded Despia. It was just every single game 1 that I lost. Game 2 every time was because of anti-spell. Game 3 was a mixture of board breakers and dimensional barrier most of the time. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But that concludes the entirety of my Swordsoul deck profile. Like I said, I'm going to try and get a combo video going. I feel like most people can find a combo video already, but I do realize that there are people who are subscribed to my channel who enjoy my content and want to see me do videos like that. So I will obviously, you know, get to work on it. It might take me a couple weeks to do that, so bear with me. I'm going to do my best to accommodate. I think I have a Heart of the Underdog locals that I'm going to this Wednesday, and I might bring like Gishki Atlantean to that because that would be pretty cool. Hopefully I can get that all settled away. We'll find out. Maybe I'll play Generator. I really don't know. Those locals are actually becoming tough to choose what I want to play. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button because it always helps out and makes me really happy on the inside. And go ahead and turn the notification bell on too, so you know when I upload more cool and awesome content like the video you just watched. This has been fantastic and fun being able to get back into the game on a slightly more competitive level. I'm not where I was back in the end of 2019, where I was basically winning every single locals that I went to and topping every single regional I went to. But we'll get there eventually. We'll work our way back up the mountain and hopefully be on the right track in no time. But like I said, if you enjoyed the video, thumbs up, subscribe. You guys already know the drill. And for right now, this is Drew, Traveler of the Burning Abyss, signing out.